here.
Okay.
All right. Hi, Janice. I'd like to call to order the Finance Committee meeting of Tuesday, September 17th. I can remember this. It is exactly 1 p.m. We are live on a digital platform. And I'll go ahead and call the roll, although I'll admit that there is at least one person on here I can't positively identify. From City Council, from the Finance Committee, we have myself, Liz Mealy, as well as Randy Allison. Eric Biter doesn't seem like he'll be joining us today. And then from the full body of council, we also have Bonnie Katz. Janice Frank, of course, is our city clerk. Here from the administration, we have Valerie Fessler, Melanie Shutt, and Cynthia Hart. And our legal counsel on Maggie Corcoran. Maggie, I'm not really sure why you're here, but I'm excited to see you. Oh, and looks like Janae's here too. Looks like Janae's here from community development as well. And then I think I'm seeing Lisa Lyons connecting. Is that correct, Valerie? And I don't know, there's someone on a landline. Is that Peg, Chris?
It looks like Peg's number.
Okay.
It could be.
And then Peg Woodring chatting in on a landline too. I have very, very crappy Wi-Fi here at my house, so I'm going to disable my video so that nothing is slowing it down more than it has to. But we are going to get rolling today, first and foremost, with actually what I believe is the final item on our agenda. Ms. Hart has somewhere else to be here shortly, so we're going to get started. We have 7 items on today's agenda. 5 of them belong to Valerie Fessler and one of them to Ms. Hart. And then we have any related items. And we're going to go ahead and get started with item number 6, a resolution for the minimum municipal obligation for 2025. Cynthia?
Good afternoon, council members and office staff. Basically, before us, we have the minimum municipal obligation. The minimum amount of the municipality must contribute to a pension plan for its employees. And the MMO reports were completed by Mockenhoff, the actuary. And this is data for the 2025 budget. And it's here, presenting it so that we can get it approved for the 2025 budget. This will be the amounts that are needed to be paid out by our city funds as well as the state funds in regards to the pension for our fire pension fund, our police pension fund, and the O&E officers and employees pension fund. Our total obligation for the 2025 year, we're looking at $4,307,972. Our state aid for 2025 has not yet been available at the time of this memorandum. However, it is supposed to be coming at any time. And that's basically what I have for you today. Is there any questions?
Whenever I'm in a meeting, Cynthia, you know there are going to be questions. But I'll defer to Randy and or Bonnie if you guys have any questions about the material first.
I don't have any questions, Liz.
Randy, anything for you?
No, I don't. Yeah, no, I'm just happy it's gone down a little bit. But yeah, other than that, at this point, I don't have any questions. Thanks.
Got it. Well, I have a couple of questions, of course, Cynthia, that you might not be able to answer today, but I was hoping maybe you could find out answers for me for Thursday.
No.
Are the years wrong in the memo, or do we not have an amount for our 2024 MMO aid?
So
the memo has 2021, 22, and 23.
So because we've not received 24 yet.
We haven't received 24 yet either, and then we don't have a number for 25. Okay, yeah, just checking. So,
Yeah, so we use the 24. So the state aid that comes in 24
mhm,
is what we distribute for 25.
got it. Okay. Um, do we pay this up front and then the state reimburses us?
No,
Or
so
so this money doesn't go into the pension until the state kicks it in?
it has to be paid in by December of 2025.
Okay. This money will.
Yes,
Okay. So technically, even though we budget it at the end of 24, do we not pay the funds until December of 25, or do we get them out of our coffers early on? Do you know?
that
I'm just
part
kind of curious.
I'm
Yeah,
not,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I can ask about that. I guess my next question actually was the more germane one, which is why is the officers and employees pension dropping so dramatically? I would assume there was a difference. Well, no, actually, I just don't know. Why is that number dropping so much?
Um, so this is really like the difference. And so apparently we're paying more into it. And so this is like the difference between the hold on just a second here. If you'll look on the page for the O&E,
Mm-hmm.
you'll look there and you'll see where it says that this is based on that January 1st, 2023 valuation.
Mm-hmm.
It's adjusted to reflect that. So of course, the wages are going to be a little different year to year. And that could be a big part of it, only because like we've had a lot of people to retire. So now the wages are being based on people who are actually coming in, which of course
Right. Okay.
being paid at the amount that people who are retiring,
Right.
left out.
Bec-
So we don't, yeah,
Yeah.
like half the streets and parks right now, they're all new people. So their
Yeah.
wage is not as high as what it would have been in the past.
Got it. And does it relate? I don't think this related, Randy. When we separated from RVT, did that
Mhm.
affect Tony? It
Um,
could.
it's
I
a
think,
possibility. Oh,
I
I'm
mean,
sorry.
because it is half of what it was 4 years ago.
mhm. It, I thought it would have,
Okay.
the information that, this, it was kind of a long process for them to separate all this out.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's kind of what I'm wondering is if that's, well, Mock and Hop will be there on Thursday, right,
Mhm.
Cynthia? Okay. So I can kind of ask them, because yeah, the other question I had was we raised the assumption, right, last year, Randy?
Yes, yes, we did.
Yeah, so I'm assuming that's what the higher numbers are related to,
Mhm.
the other funds. But, I mean, I know I didn't raise it by much, but we raised it by a tiny bit, it seems to me.
Well, it was
It's like
really
6.
appreciated by the pension meetings that we've had, the quarterly pension meetings.
Mhm.
Um, they've brought it up several times. What a wise decision that was, and
Good.
how it's paying off now. So, yeah, it wasn't a whole lot that we changed, but it
Yeah.
ends up kind of being significant in the long run.
Yeah, I think it does. Well, good. I'm glad you're attending those, Randy. I haven't made one, but I'm glad to hear they were pleased with our decision making there.
Yeah,
Seems to me, from my recollection, it was kind of on the fly. But
yeah,
but I'm generally in favor of conservative budgeting. Don't tell
yes.
anybody. Um,
Well, it's the wise thing to do.
yeah. All right. I think that's all the questions that I really have. Cynthia, yeah, it's just um, I'll look back at some of these other documents that I have in my files and see sort of this, yeah. And then on Thursday, we will have to make the standard spiel about the $4 million payment that we're making because we didn't adequately fund our pension plans at the outset.
Yes, yeah.
But and hope that, and we will hope that we will do better moving forward, but of course we likely won't. So anyway, are there any other questions on this document? Okay, hearing nothing, Cynthia, I think we can let you go in plenty of time for your other obligations.
Yes, thank you very much. I appreciate
Okay,
it.
thank you. Thanks for being here to answer questions. And we are moving along here. Give me 1 sec to pull up this.
Liz,
Yes. Yeah.
one last thing on this. I noticed on the last page of the amortization. No, wait.
Mhm.
Payment.
Sorry.
No, I lost it now. Oh, there. Yeah, the last page. I was to the next to the last. Under MMO, minimum municipal obligation is the 567,790.
Yep.
Okay, and the right under that, the reference, the amortization payment on the January 1st, 2023 was adjusted to reflect amortization base that has since expired. So it decreased 121,000.
Yeah, so that would be what Cynthia was referencing. Correct,
Yeah.
Cynthia?
Correct.
Yeah. But you'll pardon me for my lack of familiarity with some basic financial terms. What is an amortization base and how does it expire? Anybody? Or shall I ask that on Thursday?
I think that may be a question that I will jot down and get back with you on Thursday.
Okay.
I know that Jamie can explain that part of it.
Yeah, I'm sure
I've
she
been
can.
going back and forth with this, but
Yeah.
I'll make sure that we are on board with it and can answer that for you on Thursday.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, there's some financial terms that I developed some level of familiarity with, but some of these concepts are still just way above my financial pay grade, I guess. Here. Yeah, and that
may refer that number possibly could be related to RVTA, the employees there.
Yeah, I think it almost, I mean, there's just such a huge drop there. And that's the only thing that's really kept our MMO level or decreasing over the last several years. So, well, we can dig into it a little bit more in terms of the fiscal elements. The upshot of it is that I'm presuming the city is budgeting more or less 2.8 million this year to put into the MMO. I would presume, given the 1.5 that we received in 2023 from in-state assistance. And that number, Cynthia, if you could find out one other thing for me before Thursday, which is the difference between what we budgeted. I'm assuming we budgeted 2 million last year because we were expecting to receive 1.3. And then we've received 1.5 for 23. Anyway, how that affects us in terms of last year's budget. We should theoretically be about $200,000 to the good because of that. And if that money is there, if it's simply on the bottom line, or if we've put it to some other use. Just in case Jamie's not there on Thursday, that would be a good answer to get ahead of time.
Okay.
Okay, Randy, are we done with this now?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, Cynthia, thank you for your additional time. Those 4 extra minutes. And
no problem. Thank you.
All right, and we will see everybody. We'll see you on Thursday. Thanks. Okay, and moving on to item number 1. Valerie, you ready here?
Yes.
All right. A resolution authorizing an amendment number 3 to professional and administrative services agreement between the City of Williamsport and CEDACOG Council of Governments, or CEDA Council of Governments, sorry. Valerie, real quick, just if you could give us some additional detail. I don't have any supporting documentation for this resolution, and the specific amendments, the specific additions to work are not outlined in the resolution itself. So if you could give us some detail on that, that would be appreciated. Okay.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you. I can also email that to you after the meeting, Liz.
That would be good. Yeah.
Send it to Janice for the Dropbox if you would prefer. How would you prefer?
Either one is fine. Probably better to have it in Dropbox because that just makes it a one-stop shop.
Okay, great.
Okay. Janice says they are elsewhere in Dropbox. I don't always look for supporting documents.
Okay. Well, no problem. This one is actually really straightforward and a process that y'all are very familiar with. So this amendment to the professional services agreement with CEDACOG will be for them to do some additional work for us. And specifically, I'll just give you a little bit of an overview of the services. So they will develop amendments to the city's 2018 through 2021 annual action plan to reallocate CDBG funds from completed activities. So Liz, I know we had spoken about this. I think it was maybe in the last finance committee meeting about how oftentimes there's funding from previous CDBG years where there's funding left over from projects, and once those projects are completed, we reallocate them to future years so that we don't have risk losing them or having them taken back. So this is really just taking those funds from previous years and moving them forward to future years or future projects. So we are going to be moving funds from 2018, 2019, 2020, and 2021. And CEDACOG will be doing that work for us, including facilitating, orchestrating the public participation process in accordance with the city's citizen participation plan.
Okay. So that's four. Oh. Okay, never mind. I thought I was muted. So that's basically 4 years worth of amendments to move that money forward.
Correct.
For a sum total of $3,200, basically.
That's correct.
And those funds come out of those budget years or come out of our current budget year?
Those funds will come out of our 2023 CDBG administration.
Okay, got it. Understood. Just to be a real stickler about understanding why 2023 and not 2024 if we're authorizing them in
so the 2024 no, that's actually a great question. So the 2024 CDBG funds were actually just the contracts were just released by HUD this week. So we don't actually have the 2024 funds yet. So those funds come at the end of the year. So we'll be using the 2024 fund administration for our 2025 budget. So all the funds spent in our 2024 city budget come from 2023 CDBG admin. Does that make sense?
Yep. Yes, it makes it. And sorry, real quick, just heard from Janice. If you can send the remaining elements of this resolution, that would be good. It seems like we don't have them on Dropbox. So anyway, thanks.
No problem.
Okay, with the supporting documents. Got it. Okay, Randy, Bonnie, what questions have you guys got?
I
I
don't
don't
have any.
have a point.
Okay, shoot, Randy.
Sorry, Randy. I don't have any questions.
No, yeah.
We're good.
The delights of a digital meeting. All right.
Great. I'll send over the actual contract for you all to review prior to the meeting. I'll send it to Janice for Dropbox.
Excellent.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Then, hey, Maggie.
Yep. Hi.
Since you're up, hi. Hey, so the next 4 items on our agenda all relate to the same thing. Can we roll them up and deal with them together, or do we need to deal with them separately?
No,
The Chodo. they're all, I mean, all the Toto funds are going to Habitat, and they're all for the same parcel, correct, Valerie?
Yes, and
Or
that's
the
actually
same
why I
series of
asked.
parcels.
It's the same, yeah, it's the same land, 4 different, yeah. That's why I asked Maggie to actually join us for the meeting today, because Maggie is the one who drafted these very lengthy and extensive subrecipient agreements and took the time to become intimately familiar with the details of these agreements. So I actually asked her to join us in case you had questions about these agreements that I would be unable to answer.
Okay. Got it.
Mhm.
All right. Well, Maggie, was this fun or what?
It was, yeah, it's a fun way to spend my summer. But it's like for a good cause, so that's a good thing,
So, so Maggie, are we good for me to just kind of roll this all into one conversation? So,
I mean, we're not. It occurred to me after the fact, Valerie, that we're not voting on any of these anyway, so we can treat them however we want to. I would prefer, if it were a voting matter, we may be able to roll them up in terms of the full body of city council, but that's a different question. But we can, of course, discuss them all in one fell swoop, and then if we have any specific questions, we can go into individual items. But I'm assuming they're all more or less identical with different sums of money and different project years. So, although I haven't literally
You're
read
right.
every word of
They
the single
are.
agreement. Yeah. Well, I would
They
assume that you would not have been so interested in the material that she would have made all of them different agreements.
No, I would have made it as simple as possible, but you're exactly right. That it's just different project years, different sources of funding.
Got it. Okay. Well, do you guys want to give us the basic rundown on what the project looks like and what the separate years are taken care of, and then we can ask questions from there?
Yeah, sure. I'll give the basic rundown, and then you can save all the really hard questions for Maggie. So basically what we're doing is our home funds that we receive from HUD, we are required to allocate at least 15% of our allocation every year to a CHODO. So essentially, Habitat for Humanity has applied and been accepted as our CHODO, so a community housing development organization. So the work that they're doing is in alignment with the home funds, the way that we're supposed to spend our home funds. So we have, through these contracts, promised to give $30,000 of 2022 funds, $45,000 of 23 funds, $30,000 of 24 funds, and $300,000 of our program income account. And I'm assuming that one of your first questions would be, why are these different amounts? So essentially, as I came into this right around, when Maggie did this summer, we are following the amounts that were outlined in our annual action plan that the city made with HUD that council approved. So that's where those dollar amounts come from, the 30, the 45, and the 30. Understanding that the $30,000 from 2024 and 2022 do not quite meet the 15% requirement, but it's a cumulative look back when HUD looks back on it. So the fact that we're giving such a big chunk of our home income, our program income, we are going to, when they do the cumulative look back, we're going to be giving plenty of funds to this CHODO program. So no issues with compliance there. Moving forward, we will probably go ahead and just budget exactly whatever 15% of our home allocation is annually for this, so that there's no confusion there as far as compliance. But for right now, we wanted to stay compliant with what we had outlined in the council approved and HUD approved action plans.
Okay, understood. Randy, Bonnie, questions about the specific years?
I don't have any questions, Liz.
Not hearing much out there. Okay.
Liz, I don't have any questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Bonnie.
Maybe I missed this. The 300,000 comes from where?
That $300,000 comes from our home program income account. So that is an account that the city holds locally that any income from our home program goes into that account.
Okay, so it's like just a collection.
Yeah, so yeah, any payback essentially that is made to the city out of any of those home projects that were done previously goes into that account. And we currently have $994,000 in that account. So this $300,000 will start helping us to allocate some of that funding.
Oh, okay. All right. And so that we need to get to the 15% on that at some point.
Our goal would be to spend that down in its entirety and then to just be working from our annual home
Okay.
fund allocation. That would be our ultimate goal.
Okay. How did that 900,000 then accumulate in there?
That's a great question. So some of the home projects that were done previously had last week we talked about the forgiveness of the estate of Marion Loner. So that would have been one of the projects where potentially the type of projects where individuals were paying back loans that were granted through city home funds. And also there was a large project, and I know that I think Jernay is still on the meeting. There was a large project that took place that had a $500,000 payback to the city just a few years ago. So a large chunk of that funding, Jernay knows that one better than I do, but a large chunk of that funding in that account came from a large project that was paid back all in one lump sum that the city, to my knowledge, was not anticipating that lump sum payment at that time.
Okay. All right.
Is that accurate, Jernay? Okay.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
Sure.
Got it. So I thought that we actually had 1.2 million in there.
Liz, you had mentioned that to me in a previous conversation. So I actually had Cynthia in our department pull up the bank statement to confirm. It's just a little under $1 million. That 994,000 is what is in that account.
And there have not been any drawdowns?
There have not been any drawdowns that the current community and economic development staff is aware of in the time that we have been here.
Okay. I mean, because this is the only money we've given to Habitat from that fund, correct?
Yes, to my knowledge.
Because we had originally discussed an amount of $200,000 to Habitat from that fund that I thought we had authorized as part of an agreement with them several years ago now, Randy. Do you remember? For the construction of a pocket park?
Yes. Now that you mentioned it, yeah.
But to the best of my knowledge, I never saw any direct agreement for the handoff of those funds. But I am quite clear that the balance that I heard about in this account for multiple years now has been 1.2. Which is why I'm wondering if we already gave them funds.
We didn't. Not to my knowledge.
You're sure? Okay.
Yeah, I think that it was in Skip's plans to give them that amount of money, like $225,000, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
But we never, the whole Chodo agreement and all that kind of never got put into place. So the money was never handed off.
Okay. So this 300,000 then replaces the initial amount that we had promised them.
Yeah, I think we upped the ante a little bit because we need to spend the funds down. Sorry.
Okay. Why do we need to spend the funds down?
Because I'll let you answer. Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. I think we were going to say the same exact thing. It's HUD's preference that we spend down our program income in its entirety before we pull from our annual allocations. So we should be really working towards spending these funds down before we're spending down the funds they're giving us each year. Did you have anything to add, Jernay? I know we were talking at the same time.
No, literally, that's what I was going to say.
Okay. That's unfortunate in some ways, because I think several of us, and I know I talked to you about this, Valerie, and before you, I talked to Skip about it, had hopes of constructing some sort of a modified first-time homebuyer program with those funds that are slightly less restricted than our existing home funds.
Hmm.
But to work with realty companies in the area as to provide some incentive for say specifically perhaps city employees, UPMC employees to settle in the area by trying to use some of those home funds to provide first-time homebuyer assistance. Which is why I'm sad to see the pot getting depleted by this much money.
That
But
pot
on
of
the other
money
hand, I
is
agree that it's a good cause. What's that?
it's no less restrictive than any of our other allocations from HUD. It's just money that's being reprogrammed the same exact way that it was spent out. So I'm not really familiar with that idea that you're talking about, but this money has to be spent in a very similar fashion as our other home allocation.
So it would be income restricted, correct?
Yes.
But with that exception, we would at this point be looking at a 5-year loan forgiveness term, correct? Is what we were thinking about moving forward.
That's what we were thinking about moving forward for our home renovation, our home rehab projects. As far as HUD guidance on the loan period, they don't provide guidance on the home rehab projects, so we can make that determination. But they do provide guidance on first-time home buyers programs based on amount. So they'll say it's a 5-year, it's a 10-year, based on the amount of the
First-time
award.
home buyer, right?
So,
But the income limitation stays the same. It's just the forgiveness
yeah.
time that the
Yep.
recommendation changes.
Yep.
That said, I would nonetheless. I mean, so what are the thoughts about how we're going to spend down the remainder of this funding right now?
Oh, we have some thoughts. I mean, we're definitely open to having conversation about that. If you have specific ideas.
That was just one of the things that we've been hearing for years from realtors, is that that it would just really be appreciated to have something like that, even if it were in smaller amounts than, it wouldn't be maybe the full 20% down or something like that, but to be able to offer some level of home buyer assistance that might be in the form of a forgivable loan to first-time home buyers in the city. And especially now that the housing crunch that's been hitting the rest of the US seems to also be arriving in Williamsport, it would be kind of a sweet moment to be able to incentivize home acquisition and or make it possible for people for whom it would otherwise be a real challenge. But what are some of the other concepts?
Like Jernay said, we would still be tied to the same limitations of our other first-time home buyers program because of that. So certainly we've had some conversation about searching for other CHODO organizations that potentially would want to work with us in a similar capacity, expanding our work with Habitat to provide more support to them. We've been looking at some other potential subrecipients within the city that we could potentially work with to enhance some of their existing programs. So we don't have a plan in place per se about how we're going to move through this money, but this specific topic today was on the top of our agenda because, like you said, these conversations and this commitment happened in 2022, but these agreements did not. So this is sort of our first move, if you will, at getting some of this money moving so that we can fulfill our commitment to Habitat and they can fulfill their commitment to the community.
Is there a timeline from Habitat on moving forward with these projects now that the funds are in the pipeline? Or is that still, I know that there was some further financing they needed to acquire and they weren't sure when that was going to be.
So Habitat is closing on their second of 6 homes that are right on this parcel, and they have been waiting for this funding to start on the
Great.
next one. So they'll be ready to move really quickly.
Excellent. That's great.
Yeah.
Closing, you mean they're closing with the buyers?
Yes.
Oh, excellent. Good. I wasn't sure. I was going to say, I think that, I mean, they own the land, right? I was scared for a second they didn't
Yep.
somehow.
Yep.
All right.
Closing with buyers. Yep.
Okay. Well, that's excellent.
Yeah.
Good. And the park construction is presumably waiting on funding, but should be underway now that
Yeah.
that funding too is coming to them.
As far as I know, Janae, do you know anything about that I don't?
The pocket park, as far as I know, is part of this development project. So it's six new builds, and there's a pocket park in the same location.
Okay.
I
And
think
they
it's on
retain,
Scott Street.
yeah. And they're retaining responsibility for improvements to the pocket park after the initial spend, correct? It remains their land. It does not go to the city. That's my recollection of the agreement that we executed, but
Yeah.
I don't know enough to say yes or no to that.
Yeah, that's not our liability.
okay. Yeah, well, that's what I was trying to make sure. But,
Yeah.
okay. Randy, did you have other questions about
No,
these?
no, I didn't.
Okay.
I don't rather.
All right. No, I think that I mean, that project is exciting as a whole. A pocket park in that location, which is a little bit equidistant from a handful of different city larger parks, I think will be a good addition to the neighborhood. But I would be curious to see us have maybe offline conversations about the utilization of the rest of that home funding. I mean, I think to your point, there are a number of really good things we could do that would have a bunch of benefit to the city, but I'm just kind of trying to wrap my head around what, if there's anything we could do that would be a little bit more outside the box than, handing it out to organizations in the area. There's nothing wrong with doing that, but just kind of a bang for the buck question for me, I guess. Yeah. Anyway, we can talk about that at another point. But if I hear no other questions on these items, I'm happy to close discussion. Nothing else hanging out there? All right.
Not for me, Liz.
Pardon me? Not for you, Bonnie? Thank you. Okay, then that will take us down. Valerie, unless you had anything else you needed to bring to our attention.
No, I don't. Oh, thank you, Maggie, for taking the time.
Yeah, thanks, Maggie.
This meeting today, because I know that it was a lot to understand. So thank you for doing that for us.
Okay.
Thank you for your patience.
Maggie, is there anything that you want to bring to our attention about these agreements that we might not have noticed in our not particularly legalese oriented and not given to engaging in 20 some pages of reading necessarily?
I think that, so a lot of the guidelines are set by HUD itself. So largely the agreements are just making sure that we're protecting the city and making sure that the funds adequately go to Habitat. So no, I think that the biggest focus on this was making sure that we get it together so that these units can be built. I know it's been a long time waiting, so I'm excited for them to break ground on the rest of the project.
Understood. And just so that I can understand a little better, we didn't have agreements like this in place with Chodo's? There wasn't like a boilerplate we could use?
I didn't have one. And I had reached out to Austin White, and McCormick didn't have one either. So, we were kind of building, but now I know. So I think a lot of this language would be helpful in future products or projects too, in using the remaining funds in the income account.
Yeah. No, I think that certainly this is not one-time effort. We'll be able to use most of this moving forward. But yeah, it just seems like honestly, it seems like the sort of thing where HUD would have some sort of documentation for us, but that's maybe, yeah, things do seem to be changing everything. All right. Thanks, Maggie, and thanks for being here to kind of answer questions we might have. All right, hearing nothing else. We're moving on to any related items. Does anyone have anything to introduce? For the good of the order, or for the bad of the order? I don't know. All right. Hearing nothing additional, and I don't believe I have anything that needs attention right now. I will, I guess, see everybody on Thursday, with the possible exception of Maggie. Does that sound good?
Sounds good.
Sounds great. I'm just sending Janice the document you requested now, so she'll have it, and I think we're all set to go.
Awesome,
Okay.
fantastic. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
So
See you
long.
on Thursday.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.